welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, show made for the fans by a fan. I'm your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the Fan Show, and we are on location at the Buzz Pizzeria and tonight Comedy Club. And I'm here with Mark Morris, who is sort of the master behind the madness that will be tonight's showcase. Mark, how you doing?
Good, and that is a very elevated definition of what I do. I appreciate that.
Maestro of madness? I was looking for the right M word.
Maniac, allowed to have a license is probably what's most appropriate.
See, all those very fitting for comedy. Well, we're here live, or well, not live, but we are here at the Buzz, which is part of the events that you do around the area, and so we're going to have a showcase tonight with some comedians. So what can we expect tonight from the Buzz?
Tonight at the Buzz is one of our regular monthly showcase shows. I bring 4 local, usually, comedians. They each do 15-minute sets. Then at the end of the night, the audience gets to decide who they thought did it best. By applause, that person gets a huge cash award, so big that they can probably Uber all the way to the valley as long as they don't live too far out.
And then bus it the rest of the way home.
Yeah,
the
pretty
difference? Much. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had the right image built up in my head for what we can expect here. But they judge for the best one of the night. Is there a criteria that you have, like best position, best technique? Like, I don't know what kind of criteria you would have.
Well, the great thing about comedy is it's really subjective. So it's what the people in the room that night think was funny. Or if the comedians are really smart and they bring all their friends, family, and all their friends and family, the person that knows the most people usually wins.
That's usually how it goes. That might be the way that I win my only award, is because of the network and reach that I have. But family and friends help a lot, especially if you have a big family. Then every vote counts, including the ones for the toddlers that have their own Facebook. There's an email for those, and they may not know that they have a Facebook yet, but soon they'll be like, wow, there was a lot of embarrassing stuff about me that my mom posted on my Facebook page.
The other part of it is your family has to like you. Like, I've got a huge family, but I get like 4 likes, and those are just basically people that I pay. So
yeah, family can be a fickle thing. It really can. But when it comes to comedy, what do you find is the best approach? Is it current events? Is it stuff that never gets old? Or is it stories from yesteryear, stuff that plays to the nostalgic at heart? Like, what do you find is the best for winning over the patrons of the Buzz or anywhere else?
Well, I mean, everybody has their own style.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me personally, what's genuine is what works best. I do a lot of personal stories, personal experience, that, and we live in a ridiculous world. The ability to recognize that and relay it as it happens is probably gold.
I will agree with you on that wholeheartedly. Now, you mentioned when I got here, we were talking, you said, my kids give me some of the best material. Is that pretty much a common theme, recurring one throughout all comedians? Is that if they have kids, they've got never-ending material?
Well, comedians we're authors at heart, and you write what you know. And there is nothing more ridiculous than having to get up every 3 hours because somebody a tenth your size demands that you give them what they want without saying anything at all. You just got to roll with it.
See, I feel like as a comedian it would be easier to tell jokes about your spouse or a sibling, because then it's going to be almost instant that they hear about it because of the power of social media, right? Like, no joke goes unheard. And so you tell the joke at a club one night, 3 nights later they come through the door, did you really say that? And you're like, look, yes. but with kids, though, they're going to grow up, and then they're going to be like, you said that about me? Like, we're talking 15 years down the road, and you're like, I can't even remember yesterday, and you want me to apologize for a joke I did about you 15 years ago?
Oh, no, not necessarily all the time. I do a joke about the father-daughter dance that I went to with my youngest child that she made me pay her for. I wrote the joke. I made it funnier for the stage. she got upset, and she literally made me pay her $25 in order to be able to tell that joke. So now I tell a joke about how she extorted me for $25.
She's a hustler, that one.
But it doubled my material, so that works.
So is she going to get royalties, or is that it? The transaction is done.
Oh, no. She didn't read the fine print. She actually asked me. She goes, so how much are you going to give me for telling the joke this time? I go, no, that was a one-time payment.
Yeah.
So, next time, don't sell yourself cheap. That's the rule.
I now own the rights. There was no paperwork. There was no fine print. We are done with this transaction now. That's a beautiful thing.
And I got to teach her 2 life lessons at once there. Don't sell yourself short, and always read the fine print.
I was just going to say, those are valuable life lessons that they probably don't even realize that they just got for the cheap, low price of $25.
I'm telling you.
But no, I do love comedians. I think everyone, as we talked about earlier, they're different. They might sound or act similar, but each one has their own unique style of either storytelling or just the way that they go about making people laugh. And I know for me, I love stories I can relate to. I really do, because it sort of hits that you're not alone feeling, when they talk about significant others or odd family members. It's just like, oh, they go through it too. That's what I love.
Well, laughter is an involuntary response linked to your fear center of your brain. So what happens is something you relate to surprises you and you laugh. So that's my magic trick, is I try and tickle the fear center of your brain, the surprise part of your brain, and make you go, holy crap, that really does happen, doesn't it?
That's a bold strategy. I like it, though. So where are the other areas that people who live in the Northwest, if they can't come to the Buzz tonight or the next time that you have it here, which we'll go over the schedule, but what are the other cities around here that they can come catch good comedy at?
Well, I personally, Mark Morris Comedy, presents shows monthly in Rockford, Washington, Cheney, Coeur d'Alene. I'm trying to open another room in Hayden, Idaho, and I'm about to talk to somebody about a deal out in Ritzville. So, we try and fill whatever room will allow us to say ridiculous things in a microphone. But there is literally comedy every night of the week during the week if you go to Open Mic Comedy right here in Spokane.
Yeah, that's very true.
I know you can literally catch a show, I think, Monday through Thursday.
Yeah, and then Friday, Saturday are the reserved for the heavy hitters.
Oh yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those are the club nights. That's when people are really looking to get paid to perform. But you can walk in and watch the business of comedy, which is us out there grinding away and trying to take new material and make it that polished gem that you pay money to see most nights of the week. The best way to find that is to look up actually one of the performers here at the Buzz tonight by the name of Nick Cavassier is one of the heavy hitters for a thing called Spoke Comedy.
There you
it's
go.
SPOKEMEDY. If you look them up on Facebook, you can follow comedy events all over the area all the time.
Yeah, it's a great network, and there's always going to be groups throughout the country for that area's, comedy. So they're not hard to find. You just got to be willing to look in the right places and ask. Now, you said that it's something that you have set up for every night of a particular week. So the 19th of next month, are we going to be back here at the Buzz, or how does that work as far as the scheduling goes?
Well, we are always at the Buzz on the third Monday of every month.
Okay, third Monday. Good to know.
Starting in April, the 3 nights preceding that, I will have a show in Rockford, Coeur d'Alene, and Cheney until I can build more rooms, and then you'll never get rid of me.
Yeah, you talked about Hayden, Ritzville. Cheney's a good spot, though, because college kids love to come out and laugh. What's the venue out in Cheney?
The venue in Cheney is Eagles Pub. We had our first show there last night, actually, and they do advance tickets for $3 a piece, and they sold those tickets out 2 weeks before the show this month.
Well, that's like cheaper than a pint of beer at the local bar. You might as well.
Especially when you consider I'm bringing guys that headline at places like the Spokane Comedy Club. Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to see a $30 show for $3.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity for the comedians as well as the people out there. Smaller towns, sometimes it's hard to get them to a location, but once they're they're there, they discover it, they have a good time, they'll always come back because, I mean, what else are they going to do on a Tuesday or Wednesday night?
It's kind of like having a comedy show in a prison, you know? It's
what else are they going to do?
There's nothing like having a locked-in group of people that have no choice. That's actually one of the reasons I had kids. So,
who was the comedian you looked up to growing up?
Oh Lord, everyone always says this, Carlin.
Yeah.
For me, it was probably guys like Louis Anderson, Richard Pryor. I'm a little bit older than most of the people that I work with, so I go way back. More recently, despite all the other stuff that's gone on, Louis C.K. is one of the best in what he does.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I loved Louis C.K., and I think Carlin was one of my first exposures to just excessive profanity when I was a kid growing up. I don't think I ever quite heard that much come out of a man's mouth like that until Carlin.
Yeah, but if you go deeper, the thing that Carlin had going for him is he was the voice of a generation.
Yeah, very true.
Across several generations.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, now there's so many amazing comedians out there. Literally anybody that has told a joke in public can call themselves a comedian. But in the business today, especially in the Northwest, we've got amazing guys like Kermit Apio, that is an amazing dad, comedian, and coach. Brad Upton, Gabriel Rutledge. If these aren't names you've heard, you should check them out.
Yeah. It's about discovery at things like these, and I'm looking forward to what we've got going on here at Buzz tonight. But what's the favorite joke from another comedian you ever heard?
Oh, wow.
Or at least if you can't pick one, something that's got to be in your top 5, top 10 jokes.
Comedians love questions like that. I really appreciate you don't put me on the spot or nothing. I actually have a friend that does a bit that kills me every time about him and his ex-wife just didn't get along. They were like non-complimentary flavors of ice cream, like vanilla and octopus. Because he was sweet and smooth and went with just about everything, and she was a weird tentacle monster. I just love that bit, and it's not because I'm bitter and divorced, although it probably helps.
There was a bit. I think it's because of the delivery and just that it's a shortened to the point joke. But Bo Burnham, who does a lot of really unique comedy, he'll tell jokes or he'll do poetry, he'll play on piano and stuff. I'm not his biggest fan, but there's a bit that he did one time that I still laugh every time I hear it to this day, and it was, my girlfriend's got this really weird fetish where she dresses like herself and acts like a complete bitch all day. I could never get over it because I think we've all been there, where it's just like, why? You don't look any different, but you're still going to act like that.
As your significant other stares at you from across the table, you're a brave man, Richard.
It's what I do. I live for the bold moments of life, Mark.
I have the ultimate STD prevention because nobody's trying to get with this. My general opening joke is I'm a white T-shirt and black sleeves away from being a panda. So, which means I'm cute and cuddly, but I will take your arm off.
Oh, did you ever see Tropic Thunder?
Oh yeah,
the panda scene. I love it. It's hilarious. That might be one of my favorite scenes from a movie, as far as just random out there. I killed a panda. All right, well, we got some comedians to get to know before they go up on stage. So you send in the other artsy over here first, Ronnie Taylor.
Absolutely.
All right, that is Mark Morris. Mark Morris Comedy.
On your lovely equipment.
You can have it there. I mean, it's got this nice, it's like a plastic wrapped couch, I've noticed, this table.
It is. It's like my grandmother's house. I love it. I love it a lot. I feel safe.
Well, hello, Ronnie Taylor. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. So you ready to do some comedy this evening?
I am. I'm very excited. I haven't been in here yet to do comedy, or at all.
So let's get right to it then. From start to finish, how long have you been doing comedy, and when was the moment that you knew you wanted to do comedy?
It's going to be about a year here at the beginning of March, actually. So I've only been doing it for 1 year, which is weird. But I have been watching stand-up pretty much ever since high school. Anything funny. That was kind of the only thing my family would agree on to watch together. So anything that would be any movie, TV show, or anything funny. And then I actually got a job at the F.A.N Comedy Club, and I worked there for a year, and I watched enough stand-up that I was like, I want to try that now. I could do that.
I think anyone with a Netflix account in the year 2018, 2017 says, I bet I could be a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
And then it's like, no, you couldn't.
Right? Yeah. I'm also a middle child, so I just need more attention than I got growing up, I guess.
Well,
so.
One thing I've always wanted to know, and I don't know how you feel about this being sort of a new to the grind comedian, I guess if that's the term for it. I don't want to say rookie because you guys are funnier than I'll ever be.
Yeah.
But when comedians reach a certain point where they have other people write jokes for them, do you feel like that kind of takes away from that comedian and what they were up and coming? Because it's like, I get that somebody is writing it that's less known, and so they're going to give it to somebody that's very well known. They're going to have a very funny set, and they'll get paid handsomely for this. But I want to hear what the comedian performing has to say on the matter and their thoughts.
I actually honestly think that it's more true that the newer you are, the more help you get writing. I can't really speak for people who've been doing it for a while, but I'm in writing groups with some comics around town, and it's like the newer we are, the more they help us construct our jokes. So it's almost like we go in with an idea and we understand where we want to go, and they coach us to that place. So I think that if you've been doing it long enough, I think that the people who are actually the really talented ones are the ones doing the writing. So I think it's interesting that there are people who've been doing stand-up for so long who don't write some of their material.
It's so weird to me.
It seems so backwards.
Well, and I mean, you have bands and artists that haven't written a song in 10 years, but continue to win Grammys, and you're like, now how is that fair? How does that make sense? But, it's the way that the world is. But, going into this, are you one of the storyteller comics? Do you have a bunch of good material on friends and family that they don't know that you're talking about really embarrassing moments about them?
Yeah, I basically just use this time to rag on my family, because I know they're not going to show up, so...
No family support, so you're kind of in your own safe zone. You're like, they're not going to walk through that door and hear
Yes,
this, so.
Everything I used to say under my breath, now I'm screaming into a microphone, so...
Okay, so then walk me through the writing process for a joke that's a story. Is it making sure that the audience is with you every step of the way, all the way to the finish, or is it the punchline at the end?
So for me, my stories, I do write in story, but it's shorter form. I haven't had enough experience to be able to get time slots where a good long story would make sense. Because open mics are only a 3-minute set, so it would be your entire 3 minutes would be one joke. But for me, it's kind of there's a step-by-step process. It's where I usually know where I'm going to start and where I want to go, but the middle part is what's difficult. Trying to find a tag for everything you think's funny and make sure you're not blowing through it and that the crowd is staying with you the whole time.
So if you haven't had a chance to work on a set where you start with a joke or a reference, and then at the end of your set you bring that all the way back, because that seems like some very intricate stuff going on there.
I actually, in this set, I do have one callback that follows through a couple times. But that's the one thing I'm excited to be able to start doing with opportunities like this with longer sets, to actually be able to work on callbacks, because I think that's the best part about comedy. It's the most that you didn't expect that joke to come back, and it did. And I think I heard Mark talking about Gabriel Rutledge, but he is the king of callbacks. He's every joke will tie into the joke before, or it's amazing how he's an artist, how he just strings it all together. And it works every single time.
Yeah, and listening to comedians like Dave Chappelle, Daniel Tosh, Bo Burnham, Louis C.K., and I just got into Tom Segura.
Oh, yes.
I love his delivery, and some of the stuff that he talks about is priceless. But the callback, which thank you for educating me on that term.
Yes,
I did not know, and I want to make sure that any other comedians listening to this don't think I'm just some idiot babbling on about jokes. But the callback has to kind of be carefully constructed, because it's no longer just one joke. If you're going to call back to it, you have to think, okay, so I'm 30 minutes in. How do I bring this all the way back home and get people to be like, oh, like that's where it came from?
Right. Well, it's a really good feeling because then the crowd was obviously paying attention the whole time.
That's important, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure that they're locked in for the
Keeping
whole
them on
set.
their toes, yeah.
When it comes to storytelling, your personal life, what's been the best material? You said you finally get to air out everything that you kind of say under your breath about families. Are family dinners like holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, are those the best source of material for someone like you then?
They really are, yeah. When I was younger, I used to just take stress naps when everyone got all weird, but now I just like stay alert with a notebook, and I just stare at everyone. I'm like, I dare you to say something right now.
So I was talking with Mark, and I said that, when it comes to making jokes about significant others or family members that are at a similar age or older, in the age of social media that we live in, it's not something that's going to go unheard for very long, because you'll say it, it'll get to somebody, they'll share it, and then all of a sudden your family member a week later calls you up and be like, did you say this about me to, like, complete strangers? And he uses his kids as material. And I'm thinking, okay, take that, but now think 15-year gap from when you first said it to when they're finally getting around to all these old YouTube videos. Has any family member called you out on a joke yet?
They don't show up, so...
She gets really close to the microphone.
I record everything and I send it to my dad because my dad loves comedy, and I talk about him in it, and he loves it. Like, I'm like, hey, yo, just so you know, I kind of ragged on you on this one, and he will, like, call back and he's like, I totally deserve that, I loved it, so...
I totally deserve that.
Yeah.
See, I feel like what's funny is that my mom and dad are two very different people, despite the fact that when they first got together and were married, were very, very similar, but now they've kind of gone very separate ways, and so... everybody probably looks at my parents and be like, man, I bet your dad is the greatest source of material. No, it's my mom. It really is my mother, because she's this sweet, naive person that doesn't realize the gravity of what she's saying.
Yep.
And so you're laughing hysterically inside, and she's just got this blank kind of look on her face like, did I say what I say?
Yes, that you're describing my mother right now as well. Because my mom's in that weird, I think it's, is it Gen Xers? You know, it's like she's not quite a baby boomer, but she's like the one right after, so she's like 50. So she's really trying so hard to be progressive, and then she'll just randomly say something, and I just give her the look, and she's like, oh no, that wasn't okay, was it? And I'm like, thank you for saying it. I write it down. I'm like, I'm never going to forget this.
Here's the perfect example. So probably about 3-4 years ago, childhood friend of mine had got married. I went to the wedding, lovely wedding, and then he got divorced, and I remember hearing all about it because it was just this ugly, nasty split. And so I went over to my parents' house. She was asking me, how's everybody doing? And I was just like, well, he got divorced, and it was kind of ugly. And she's like, oh my goodness, like what happened? And I was like, well, she was sleeping with another dude. And she's like, oh, okay. Makes sense. And I'm like, yeah.
They do the mom thing where they like whisper. My mom does that too. She will whisper the word gay like it's a bad word. It's like, I'm a grown-ass adult, like it's okay. We're all adults here.
And I'm like, yes, mom, like sex. Like that's
like
exactly
sex.
what was going on.
Yes. No, they were just cuddling.
Yeah.
He was really tired, so was the other guy.
Cuddled so hard.
Cuddle puddle.
Who was a favorite comedian of yours, either growing up before you knew you were going to be a comedian and now is kind of your inspiration? Because I know that you guys have like this unwritten rule where you don't want to mimic or copy who you like, but they were definitely an inspiration to getting into the business in the first place.
I'm kind of weird because it was a lot. I watched so many comedy like movies before stand-up, so... And my grandparents and my parents were the ones who like introduced me to stuff, so my stuff is so old school, but like Mel Brooks, any Mel Brooks movie ever, that like I rewatch them now and I understand why I am the way I am. Or even like Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, just like black and white old school slapstick humor. That's like constantly my go-to. So it's kind of hard to mimic that style now because it doesn't quite fit, but...
See, the thing I think is the biggest problem for comedy today is that too many comedians are trying to touch on real world, real time stuff going on. And of course, social media has got to be like the lowest hanging fruit of the comedy world right now.
Yep.
Where comedians before would speak about situations and stuff that were going on that kind of resonate through all generations. Like, oh yeah, man, my family's totally messed up too, and they completely embarrassed me every chance that they got, and this happened and this happened. So when it comes time to prepare material for, like, is it hard to do current world stuff or the low-hanging fruit like social media, or is it, if you're desperate for a laugh, you'll go to?
I actually kind of steer away from social media stuff, anything political, because my style is basically I just talk about my life because I need to get something out of my system apparently, but I know that I'm not copying anyone because it's like we don't all have the exact same experiences, but they're similar enough that it's something that I say is going to resonate with someone and get that laugh, or it's going to be so random that people are like, that's not real. People come up to me after the show sometimes, they're like, did your family actually say that to you? I'm like, yes, they did. They did say that.
I remember one of my earliest exposures to comedy, like a comedy movie that you were talking about, was Robin Williams live on Broadway. And I don't think I ever saw The World the Same again. I was just like, what just happened?
Robin Williams was gold.
And
gold.
Here's the problem that not a lot of people see, is that when you have a comedian that also doubles as an actor, or an actor that will do comedy, your whole world gets rocked and borderline ruined. Like when you found out Santa Claus wasn't real.
Yep.
And that's, for me, that was Robin Williams live on Broadway.
And then when you find out Robin Williams isn't Santa Claus, it's just
exactly.
This whole thing.
But he was Peter Pan, and he was Patch Adams and Jack, and now all of a sudden he's like cursing every other word and talking about like just the nastiest sexual encounters and stuff happening with his own body, and you're like, what?
Yep. Mrs. Doubtfire, no.
That was the one I forgot. No, Mrs. Doubtfire, don't do that. But I do love comedy. I think Netflix has been great. You'll lose, days, weeks of your life to Netflix if you hit that comedy tab and start hopping over from live comedian to live comedian.
Yep.
Was there ever one comedian that you saw that you had really high expectations for and they just didn't live up to it? And you even tried maybe a couple of different specials and it was just like, I either don't understand the hype or they're just not my style of comedy.
Yeah. What I'm about to say is going to be really controversial, but I put off watching the Dave Chappelle specials and new stuff for so long because I heard nothing but hype, and then I let it die down, and then I watched it, and I was still like, I'm still not as hyped about this as everyone else was. And I understand exactly what he's doing on like a very basic level, how like fantastic and talented he is. But like I still like I wasn't laughing the way he deserves me to be laughing. And I was like, I feel like I'm wasting his time just watching this and not appreciating it as much as everyone else did.
Well, I remember when I watched him, I had a similar fear. I was like, am I going to watch this and be disappointed because it's been so long? His first specials were so great, and then his show was so awesome, and it's like he kind of went out on top. It was unexpected, and we wanted more, but it's like he was the king of that era. So I was really nervous going into it. And for me, what I love most about Dave Chappelle is that he speaks to like so many different cultures and races. Like it's not some elite club you have to be a part of to get what he's joking about. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there was a lot of hype. I don't feel like it lived up necessarily to the hype. It was still funny in some parts, which, I mean, it's Dave Chappelle, but nothing for me will ever be like his first special that he did in Washington, D.C. And I loved comedy after that.
Yeah.
But what's the favorite joke that you ever heard from another comedian? Or top five?
Top five. You brought back Bo Burnham, and for some reason, it's not really a joke. It's just, do you remember he literally was the beginning of YouTube? You know, like back when YouTube just started, that's where he kind of got his foot in the door. Yeah. And his song, My Whole Family Thinks I'm Gay, I count that song as a bit and that entire song as a joke, and it is probably my favorite thing ever, just because he's so talented, like you guys were talking about. Like, he can deliver jokes in any different form, and it's fantastic. And he's just writing, and this whole song is basically him saying things that will make the crowd think he's gay, and then he like just ends it with, I swear I'm not gay, or like, I'm not gay, I promise. Even though my favorite color is rainbow, like all these things. And just, that entire bit I think is timeless.
Yeah, there's a lot of Daniel Tosh jokes that I still laugh at today. Tom Segura jokes that I still laugh at. So there's a lot of good comedy still out there that's not tied up with, like, you know, sexual harassment issues from, 3 years ago or however long. But,
yeah, I think the jokes that usually make me laugh the hardest are like the breakup jokes, like heartbreak humor. I think it hits too close to home. Or we had a comedian over the weekend. who just like had just like, it wasn't even a joke, it was just a tag like off one of his jokes, and he's just like, guys, chug your beers like your dad's mad at you. And I was like, I don't know why I'm laughing so hard. Like, I almost dropped the tray I was carrying, and then everyone learned a little too much about me, I think.
There's been a lot of jokes that I can't even relate to on the slightest level, but I will laugh the hardest at, and it's just like, wow, for a person to be able to get that reaction out of me for something I have no idea. Like, I've never been in that situation, but that was absolutely hilarious. I think that's a sign of a good comedian.
Yep.
Well, have a good set tonight.
Hey,
Next
thank you so
person
much.
that you are sending over is
Derek.
Derek.
On deck.
All right, Ronnie Taylor. Thank you. How's it going? Derek, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
So are you just Derek, or do you have a last name?
Derek Schoonover.
All right, so...
Can I adjust this?
Yeah.
Can I cuss? Is this a cussing? Should I hold
let
back?
Let it loose, man. Let
Okay.
it loose. Yeah, I'll
You
check,
got the.
I'll check the
Oh, I don't
explicit
want to.
box
I don't want to
later.
mess with your money, man.
No, it's all good. It's all right. This is more for you guys than anything. And
Awesome.
I'm happy to be here. But so we're here at the Buzz.
Yes.
You're going to do a set tonight. So what
Yeah.
I've kind of been doing, other than Mark leading us into what we can expect tonight and throughout the rest of the area, is
Yeah.
getting to know each comic.
Cool.
So how long have you been doing comedy for?
Like 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And I thought Ronnie was the greenhorn here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Wow, 6 months.
Yeah,
And
6
how
months.
have you liked it? Like,
I
is
like
that
it a lot.
So
it's
that's
been
long
a
enough
lot
to
of
get a
fun.
good feel for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it's long enough to get a little bit of a feel, I guess. Everybody has been like super nice in the scene and stuff, and really accepting and supportive and everything. And it's really, I don't know. I didn't expect it for some reason, but everybody is awesome. They're good with advice. They're good with, if you got jokes, they'll put you up and everything. It's really cool, man.
I feel like I have jokes. I laugh at myself in long drives in the car from one place to another, but I don't know how well they would hit an unsuspecting audience, which is what you guys do, and props to you guys for that. But let's turn the clock back then. 6 months ago, you started this, but how long before that did it take you to finally, break the ice and take the plunge into comedy?
Like, how do you mean?
So as far as you started 6 months ago, how long before that did it take you to build up like the courage and the, hey, I'm going to go do this like open mic night? Or
It's been
whatever it
like
was?
years. I was always thinking about it, but I never really thought. I used to do like poetry and stuff like that. I do
Poetry
that live.
slams?
Yeah,
I've done a few of those.
I
Yeah.
do that and
Different, right?
everything. Yeah, and then I took a long time off, and it was kind of like, well, I'll either get back into poetry or try something new. And I did some poetry, and then I went and did comedy, and I was like, no more poetry, man, no more.
Was it one of those mutations where you were doing poetry and people were laughing more than they were like doing the snapping?
That was what I really liked, was when people would laugh. When there would be a joke, like not even a joke, but somebody would hear something, they'd be like, oh, that's funny. They would laugh. It was way better than like the feeling of, oh, I'm done, and everybody's having a feeling, and all that stuff. It's like, oh, everybody's sad now, everybody's happy, or everybody's like confused. Usually was the case, but
I was the sack poet a couple of times because I didn't have good enough material to compete on like a serious level. I mean, we're talking about people that will pour their heart and soul in the weirdest way into their writing, right?
Oh yeah.
And they'll have lines that just make everyone like, ooh, or like, yeah, and they do the snapping thing. But
that's what I thought was when I would see somebody who was doing like poetry and they were doing it really, really well. It was something that I couldn't even imagine. It's like seeing somebody act in a play or something.
Right?
Where I'm like, no, I can't do it. Like, it's not my thing. And then when I started doing comedy, or when I started going and seeing the open mics and stuff, I was like, I could do that. I can get up and talk. I can get up and say weird shit. That's all good. And it really, I feel like it. I think it's good. I'm really I try not to say too much about it, because I have a tendency to do like 6 months at something and then just drop it and move on, and I don't really want to do that right now. So I have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm kind of good at, like a little bit good at.
So who's your best source of material? Family, friends, significant others?
It's been a really weird life. Basically, it's usually just like a little idea. I could grab a little idea, a little kernel, and then just build all around it and stuff, and then try to see how those little things fit together and try to make it a little bit bigger and stuff. But yeah, it's like a lot of just weird. I try to get weird mostly. I try to get weird. Like I try to get weird as quick as I can, but without being jarring so much. Like try to say here's a little something and see if people will follow. And then by the end of it, it's really weird, and they're like, "Well, how did we get here?"
So, are your jokes then kind of built like a platform game where it's if people are following along the first part, you go to the second level, but then if some have fallen off or trailed off, you're like, "And punchline," instead of going all the way up to like level 4.
It's it's interesting because it didn't occur until like 3 or 4 months in. Just recently, where somebody said something, or I was watching somebody, I think it was, I know who it was Phil Kopczynski. I was watching him and I was like, every one of his lines is a punchline. Some of them are small punchlines, but every single one of them is a punchline. So he's getting laughs from all over the room with every single line, and I was like, that's an interesting idea to try to get laughs. How weird. I should give that a shot, So I've been working out, trying to do that a little bit more, like get to actually put jokes in. That probably sounds bad, but that's what I've been working on, is to actually try to stack it up pretty good, so that maybe this dude over here gets one, and maybe he misses the next one, but this dude over here gets it, so it's a little I don't know anything, actually, now I'm thinking about it.
Well, 6 months, you're still young, you're still early into this. I'm sure it's a lot of feeling out the process.
Super green, yeah, definitely.
So with your style of comedy, is it a lot of storytelling then?
Yeah, I'm trying to cut it back. I write. I've been writing for years. I think that's why it's been a little bit easy for me to get into it. Is that I write like all the time, so that's good. But I've been trying, because I can sit here and tell a boring story that's interesting, but it's not funny. You know what I mean? I can tell you a 10-minute story, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, wow, that was interesting and good." But to say 2 sentences and get a laugh, and then 2 more sentences, or 1 sentence and get a laugh, that's where it's hard, like cutting it down and stuff.
So growing up, the few years that I went to summer camp, we had this thing called the dog collar. And it was for a person to wear after an event that happened that day that was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
And the catch is that it only had to be 10% true. The rest could be as fabricated as you wanted it to be. So you were talking about construction of your jokes and how you're like, it starts with this little thing and then it blossoms. So you have a lot of interactions with family or friends where it's like, that could have been really funny, so I'm going to take that snippet and I'm just going to blow the shit out of it.
Yep, take that little spot and be like, whoop, that's mine now, steal it. That's definitely, for sure. And I feel like that's what I do look for, is like something that I believe in, or I know is true, or whatever, and it has to be that, at least a little bit there, and then you can hyperbolize all you want, and just go nuts with it and everything, but there's got to be that little bit where I got the confidence in it, you know what I mean, at first. But again, I don't know shit about shit, so I'm just rambling.
What was that Robin Williams line? You do not know shit about fuck, my man.
Exactly. There you go. That's the one, man.
Well, so who was a comic that you either looked up to, you would watch their specials or their movies, and you were like, yeah, I could maybe do this, or who was the one that finally kind of gave you that nudge over the edge where you're like, yes, I have to try it.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with George Carlin, and that was he was the one that I mainlined the specials. I've seen Jammin' in New York like 40 times and stuff. It's just like, it's just so weird and good and stuff. And you go off on these crazy, like I always wanted him to go off on those weird, bizarre tangents and stuff.
Yeah.
But he would always kind of rein them in a little bit, but sometimes just go nuts with them. But it's a weird thing with George Carlin, and the same with Patrice O'Neal, who is like, I think one of the best there ever was. That special Elephant in the Room is phenomenal, like unbelievable. But there's a thing where I have a tendency to not want to give too much credit to people who aren't around anymore. It's a little bit weird to say, but we're in a completely different time, perception-wise, as when George Carlin was around, or even when Patrice O'Neal was around. And I like weird. I like Doug Stanhope a lot. His kind of stuff kind of got me going. He just has this drunken rambling sort of way about him, but it's really like fine tuned and it works and everything and stuff. But I think getting out and doing it was just listening to podcasts and stuff, and like Joe Rogan talking about just how he likes it, how he's like, it's cool, it's fun, it's interesting,
Joe Rogan is such a different character just because I watch UFC, and to see him commentate, and then I remember him doing Fear Factor, and then he does stand-up, and it's just like, can this guy like pick a profession and stick with it? But he's so good at all of them,
he's all over
he
the place,
can host the show, and he can do commentary, and then he can kill it in comedy. So
what's really weird about that is I think the reason why he's so good at all that stuff is because he's just himself.
Yeah,
he just does his own, and that's a weird thing too that I think has sort of helped me a little bit, is that I'm me. I'm going to talk about weird shit, and that's it. And I think a lot of people have a hard time walking from off stage to on stage and being the same person. It's you want to read, you want to sort of recite what you wrote and make it work, but if you're totally fake, it might work. You never know. It might work.
Fake it till you make it, man.
Yeah, but if people can feel it, I feel like that's why I like, one of the reasons why I like Patrice O'Neal so much is it feels like he just rolled out of bed onto stage, and that's his life, you know what I mean? It works and stuff.
For me, George Carlin is immortal. Like, in the comedy world, I don't think there's a comic, unless they were born way after his time, that doesn't refer back to the work of George Carlin.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the best example I could give you is what the character, or even the actor playing the character, but Harrison Ford as Han Solo in Star Wars did for that community. Like, it made the nerd kind of sexy again, or if it ever was before. But he had that effect on the comedy world, where it's like he's telling jokes and he's delivering in a way that it still translates to today. You'll have people that I don't even know if they were alive when he was doing his best stuff, but they'll be like, George Carlin was the king, man.
Yep.
Like,
Boss player. It's a weird thing. There's a little point of contention with me on that, where I feel like there's this odd place and time, and it was sort of like the late 60s through the early 80s, where things, I want to say like the whole F.A.N, like classic rock, and like George Carlin and Richard Pryor and these guys like that are the kings, you know what I mean? The kings of this stuff. Michael Jackson, I think that time was ripe for that thing, because it was, and I don't want to go off on a weird thing here, but it was on its way to something totally different, like a lot more flashy and fast and stuff like that in the 90s and 2000s and stuff. So that time was a time where it was like you had to search things out, and so you had that feeling of like finding something and it was yours, you know what I mean? And I don't know, I'm kind of, it's a little more deep than, like, maybe a bigger conversation is just a few minutes, but like there's classic rock songs that they have no business being on the radio still. They should have been thrown in the trash a long time ago, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're still there because that time was something special, it was a weird, I don't know, that's probably bullshit. But
well, what I think Carlin did, as crazy as it sounds, was he did no holds barred comedy tastefully. Because I've always believed that comedy is like the most pure form of entertainment, because if you're offending someone, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that there's materials and jokes that almost like shouldn't be said, and I'm not saying don't say them, but it's just the fact that you got to have like your own kind of personal censor and be tasteful about it. And I think that's what Carlin did perfectly, was that he crossed lines, but it was always something where he didn't go so far that people hated him for it. Everybody loves Carlin.
Yeah, he had that kind of grandpa thing going on
exactly.
for the last part of his career and stuff, for sure. But yeah, he was definitely pushed a lot of boundaries when he was in there doing it. He had a platform and he did definitely use it. That's for sure.
Well, Derek, have a good set tonight. Looks
right on, man.
We've got one more of your guys.
Got a couple, hanging around.
The headliner, who is
I'm not sure who's getting sent over. I'll go touch somebody and see what's going on.
Yeah, check with Mark. Say, hey, who's last?
He's completely engrossed right now. Well, thanks again, man.
Hey,
Have a good
problem,
one. It's
man.
nice meeting you.
You too.
Get this thing going.
Hey, Mark, who's the last one?
Actually, Nick is here. Nick.
All right, we got one more coming up. Hey, what's up, man?
How are you?
It's Nick.
It is.
Oh,
How are you?
get nice and settled.
I am. I'm ready for this.
So we are here at the Buzz, and we've got the Mark Morris Comedy Presents, and you guys are going to do some comedy.
Yes,
and
I'm looking forward to it.
I've seen you at the Comedy Club a few times, so I always wonder how many of their employees are like comedians, you know.
I don't.
At home.
I don't work for them like in an official capacity. I do like the drink and debate. I think I'm just there like so often that everybody's like, no, Nick works there. It's like, no, I kind of just like sleep there sometimes. No, so I don't like. Yeah, I work like for them in the capacity that we put on shows for them. But yeah, so in terms of that, it's like, you know, Ronnie and I think Sophie are like the two main comedians that like work there, and then like Deese, Harry, and I are the ones that like produce shows there. Phil Cobb, Michael Glatzmeyer, they also do shows there. And,
Yeah.
So I guess you work for them in that capacity.
So you're like the bar regular that's, you know, the menu frontwards and backwards, and the other patrons that come in, they're like, do you like work here?
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
no, I'm just here a lot.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Like I'll be over at like Gamers, and like people will be like, "Hey, can you like get changed?" Like, no, I'm not allowed behind the bar.
Yeah, I'm not
Believe
in
it or
an
not.
official capacity yet.
Like that's why I'm playing like games so much. Yeah, believe it or not, they don't just pay someone to randomly go play pinball a bunch. Like that'd be a dope job.
It really would. It's
Kevin
like,
and Renee, if you want somebody to play pinball full time, I am here for you.
It's like whenever they glorify a job that people right away after the movie comes out, they'll say that's not how it works. Like Grandma's Boy in video
Right?
game
Yeah.
testing. They're like,
You're
that's not how it
that's
works.
not real at all. Even like I was a bud tender for a while,
Oh.
and people lose their minds about that. It's like they have a completely different idea of what that means. Like, oh man, so you're probably like weighing stuff out. I was like, no.
But that's
no.
such a new industry that you could mess with people.
Oh,
all
you
the time,
could.
and they wouldn't know that.
You could like describe your life like, you know,
most lavish thing
Pablo
ever.
Escobar, and people would be like, no way. Be like, yeah, man, I'm just around pounds and pounds.
I
It's
sample
crazy.
the new stuff when it comes
Yeah,
in.
exactly. I mean, you like that is funny because you do like every like I don't know if every single one, but like most shops are like they send their bud tenders home with samples,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's funny. Everybody's like, "Oh, you get samples?" It's like, well, that's one myth that's real.
Yeah, our monthly work meetings are us just gathering around trying out the new stuff, and we have like Jimmy John's catering. It's a great time. It's a great.
Fantastic, yeah. We're keeping the fast food industry afloat by ourselves.
Oh wow. Oh, that would be a glamorous, glorious job to have.
It's fun ones. Like now I work at like a video game store.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm sure my like parents just like hate me. like they just like despise me.
When I was your age, I was pumping gas for
Exactly,
elderly women.
yeah.
And,
Yeah, and I've got to like sell weed, and now I'm like selling video games, and I do comedy.
well, everybody's going to be different than their parents.
Oh,
unless
right,
you fall
yeah.
into that like perfect line of work where you're exactly how they
Jesus,
want it.
right? Yeah. My dad was like a Marine and like has like mild Asperger's, so he's like a weird individual to deal with by himself. He's like super conservative. So when people meet me, they're like, what happened?
So we've been getting to know all the comedians, and I've been talking to them about how long they've been doing it, how they got into it, and the comedians that inspired them. But we'll skip a few parts. We'll come back because that reminds me of one of the things we've talked about, which is source of material.
Yeah.
So I just got done talking to Derek about how Carlin was such a tasteful comic for his era, where he did cross a lot of lines, but at the same time there wasn't ever a moment where people hated him for something that he said
yeah.
or made a joke about.
Oh, yeah.
So when it comes to you and your material, you just mentioned like your dad and like his condition and stuff. Is that off limits for you, or do you like just take it and go with it?
Yeah. So, I don't like shy. I definitely don't shy away from like any topic. Like, there's things that like I agree, like you should probably like avoid like touching on, and then I'll like touch on it. So it's like I can't like I can never be too like stern on anybody. Like I don't know, like even Carlin, didn't he have what was it, the 7 words you could never say like on radio?
I think that's like the most shocking thing he ever did.
Exactly. Yeah, it floored people. Like you said, there was like people who like hated him. Like, what do you do and all this other stuff. I think that's a great example to use of like a lot of comedians who like do shock humor or even like do political humor or do anything else. I never have any clue which category I fall into because it's like I don't know. I feel like talking about rainbows today, right? And tomorrow I feel like getting super serious and talk about politics, and a week from now I might be talking about like my dickhead aunt or like who knows like. I think real life is some of like the best comedy ever because it's happening. It's like like if you do a live commentary on yourself, it's like, hey, might as well.
Well, I told Mark that my favorite comedy was the stuff that you could relate to.
Oh yeah,
because you get that feeling of like, oh, it happens to them too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not alone in the world. No, everybody's got a messed
Absolutely.
up aunt.
What is it? The self-deprecating humor. People are really into that because like you could be braggadocious. You could you'd be like, hey man, me and these threesomes, we're killing it. And you might get some chuckles out of it, but like half the people are like, this dick. like, go back to talk about your small balls. Like, that was way better.
Well, and that's something funny, too, because Adam Sandler, I don't think that there's a movie. Okay, there's one movie, and it was like a recent one, but every other movie, he talks about like how small his dick is. And you're like, so is this like factual? Like, I don't know what to believe. Like, if he's just like being, the coy type.
I want to get to that level one day where like I just start dropping crazy stuff on stage and people like, this is true. This is 100% true. This right here. Nick is at a point in his life. Yeah, this is it.
But then there's Dane Cook who does a bit where he talks about dropping his phone in his toilet. He's got it up to his shoulder and he's like, are you kidding me? And he's like, I tried to catch it, but it hit my big floppy cock and it was over. And every girl in the audience, every one of them does that whistle or scream.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, that was so for them. Like, I don't know if it's true, but he's the first comedian I've ever heard say that he had that.
That's not a bad one. Yeah, like I said, it's the bragging angle. It's like, you got to be careful with it. Like I guess there's like a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. I'm trying to find that right way. I'm doing it all wrong. I'm just swimming in a sea of wrong on it.
Well, because you can probably a Dane Cook can probably get away with bragging because the girls are just going to be.
Well, Dane Cook is also anyway. like over 6 foot.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
White, built like God actually likes him.
But a Tom Segura, you're not going to hear him brag because people will be like, really? Like, are you sure about that, Tom?
But you know what? I'm more likely to believe Tom Segura has a big floppy cock than I believe Dan Cook is. Like, absolutely, yeah. Disrespect intended. I absolutely believe Tom Segura is rocking the big sucks.
So there's a bit that Tom does, and it recently resonated with me because I did a lot of traveling last year and stayed at hotel rooms. And he's talking about staying in hotel rooms and how he loves to completely disrespect that room. And he's like, I'll wipe my balls on the curtains because I know they don't clean those often. So every hotel room I go and stay, I don't need light tonight. Like I don't need to open these today. I just don't. And it stuck with me. But I will always laugh every time I check in because I'm like, nope, not going to touch.
I'm feeling better and better about just sleeping in my car. I'm like, yeah, this is the right decision. This is the right one. If anyone's balls on anything, it's mine. Yeah, I bought it used. What are you talking about?
All right, so let's go back to the beginning then. How long have you been doing comedy for?
So I had to wait till I got out of the military. So I always wanted to pursue comedy. Like I always wanted to. That was a thought in my mind that I watched it all the time. That was like the only thing my dad and I did bond over. He would be like, "Hey, come watch this Cheech and Chong movie with me." It's like, I'm 6, let's do this. Let's do this. And he was like the type of guy that explains jokes. Like he can't help it. It's like, oh, it's funny because of this reason. So he's just laying it all out there, and I'm like, yeah, this is good. And so when I was really young, I tell everybody that I was raised by 2 different dads because I had drunk dad, and then my dad murdered his liver and could never drink again. And so I had sober dad. Drunk dad was way cooler. And that's where I got all the comedy from. So I had to wait till I got out and to legitimately pursue it. So it's been about 4 years now that I've been going after it. So it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's good. And funny that you mentioned Cheech and Chong because my dad used to watch that all the time.
Oh, God, yeah.
There's a bit in there where they're in the car and everybody's laughing. And he's just like, I don't know why we're laughing, man. And I'm like, me, right here, like, I don't know what's
right
happening.
here.
I'm too young for
he used
this.
to have me watch that. He used to have me watch Young Frankenstein with him. He used to, what was that one movie that Richard Pryor was in with God, what was it?
Is it See No Evil or the
No,
one where
it was
they-
Richard Pryor, and he was in Young Frankenstein. I'm blanking on his name. Gene Wilder.
Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, no, not Blazing Saddles. Another one.
It's the same era. Yeah.
There's another one. And was that Richard Pryor in Blazing Saddles? I don't think so.
No, it was a different guy.
Yeah, it's a different guy. Yeah, people get them mixed up because they're both black. Yeah, they're both black and funny, and people are like, Richard Pryor. But yeah, there was another movie. I always blank out on it where like Gene Wilder, I'm pretty sure even like put on blackface. Oh god, it was great. Oh yeah, he had a weird sense of humor, so I got to grow up on that. But even after his like sobriety hit, every once in a while he would just get in these like flashback moods. He'd be like, "Hey Nick, do you want to watch The Ladies Man?" It's like, I do. I do. Let's do this.
It's his videography.
It might have been See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Yeah, because that's the one where Richard Pryor is blind and Gene Wilder is deaf.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Oh god, that's funny.
I do love that movie. That's
Oh,
hilarious.
God, that's it.
So 4 years, is it safe to say that you found your niche, like your delivery of comedy?
I think I found like my voice, which was like in the beginning I was kind of just like doing like I would just go up and make shit up on the spot. I was just doing like true improv, like whatever I could think of on the spot. And then I started using like I would just come up with like topics I wanted to talk about. I would go up on stage and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to talk about Hillary Clinton. I'm going to talk about the NBA, and I'm going to talk about gay rights. Like those are 3 things. And I didn't have anything prepared for it. I just knew I wanted to talk about those topics, and that kind of guided me through. And I got really good at doing that. Then when I met my wife, her and I, she used to like find stuff like memes or like gifs and stuff, and just like little stuff like, and she was like, "This is so funny," and I would try to turn them into bits for her, right? But you can only do that so long because it's like that's not your stuff.
Yeah.
So it was I was using it more of like a bullet point, like a way to just riff off of. And so that was a fun way because that challenged me in terms of that wasn't my like thought. So it was like some random meme about something, and it was like, that was freaking hilarious. Let's see if I could turn that into 5 minutes. And I would do them at open mics or back at Uncle D's, and that got really good at that. And so when I started like trying to get book places, people were like, "Oh, do you have like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And like I definitely have that. Like, "Oh, how do you have your stuff written down?" It's like, No, I just make it up. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, I just make it up. And that, like, freaked them out because it's like, oh, so you're just an improv comic.
Oh,
so when people book you, they're expecting, like, your best. They're expecting you to, like, if they book a musician, they're expecting to hear, like, their 5 best songs or whatever. They're not expecting you to, like, all right, guys, here's a tasty riff, and I'm just going to make up the next 5 minutes of music. So I definitely understood that. So that's where I started, like, getting my stuff written down or, like, at least, like, recording myself and then getting it memorized in order and then just riffing off of that. But even now I still don't write anything. I just record myself, and that way I can I have it memorized, but I can expand on it or go whatever direction because every crowd's different. And I try to have like a conversation with the crowd as I describe my comedy. If they're laughing, that's a yes. If they're quiet, that's a no. So it's a way of steering things.
You always want a reaction. It may not always be the best, but it's better than silence, right?
Patrice O'Neill said not everybody in the room should get it. There should be 50 people like laughing and 50 people horrified. And it's like, okay, like that's cool. He's like, not every joke is for every single person. It's like, that makes sense. Not everything's gonna resonate with everyone.
Well, I was just talking to Derek about how when I went to summer camps for a couple of years, we had this thing that we would give out each night called the dog collar, which was the person who won it had to wear it for an entire 24-hour period, and it was for like the most.
Oh, so you guys were sadists.
The most embarrassing moment from that day, right? the catch is that only had to be 10% of the truth. So from that, you could take it and just exploit the hell out of it. So
Really good.
I hear a lot of comedians saying,
Everybody
like,
would be a pedophile immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
If mine, I'd be like, "Hey, he touched a kid," and then he touched a kid. Everybody be kid touchers immediately.
So all these comedians I'm talking to, I'm like, I come across stuff in everyday life that it's like, oh, if this would have happened, that would have been so funny, and then it didn't. And you guys have free range to kind of take it and make it that.
Oh yeah, you definitely can. You can definitely express artistic creativity, I guess, and go wherever with it. What was it? I forgot. Was Larry the Cable Guy? That's not a real person. That's just a character made up and just blown up to 1,000. There's so many people who think that's real. It's no, that's not who he is when he's at home. Believe it or not. So yeah, you can definitely find something or a story or a character or anything and turn it to 1 million and put that on stage and work it out. The flip side to that is if it's not who you genuinely are, your genuine story, anything else, sometimes it doesn't come across well, and that can be the gamble. People are oh, this isn't believable at all. And then I punch Nixon in the dick. Next question.
What's the funniest bit from a comedian that you ever heard? Top 5.
Top 5? Oh God, I don't know. It's so hard to rank. It's so hard to rank the best bits in your head because they're you constantly remember something different about them. So I remember old school Dave Chappelle. Oh God, this is so messed up. It was such a funny thing he did. He was talking about why more guys don't call the sexual assault hotline. And he's like, how do you even make that call? Yo, dog, they caught me slipping. And it was oh God, that murdered me. That brought me to my knees, crying, laughing. But there's also some of the better stuff I saw where, have you ever watched The Green Room? Where it's the comedians sitting around and they're just they get a bunch of different comedians and they just have them have a conversation. They all just talk.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's on YouTube. I think they were HBO episodes. And it's a great one because there's one with Patrice O'Neal and he's got who is it? The guy from Full House. Oh crap. Yeah, Bob Saget's there, Roseanne Barr's there, and they throw up a picture of Roseanne Barr. She's dressed like Hitler, and she made a bunch of Jew cookies, and she was like, "I baked them in the oven." And Patrice is he's like, "You know that was messed up, right?" She was like, "No, I was trying to be funny." He was like, "The only thing worse is if you would have made them skinny." And it's oh my God, that's the worst thing ever. But I don't know. There's so many examples like that where it was just it murdered me. Bo Burnham's "Art Is Dead."
Yep.
Oh God, that's such a great song. So it's hard to pick a specific set or any of them. I think it's just it changes every few years.
Well, Mark was giving me the look. They're using their best material right here,
yeah,
so
right
I
now.
apologize in advance.
Burn it now.
I'm using it all. I'm using it all. I just used all 10 minutes.
Was he the last one that I had?
No, we got.
Oh, one more?
We got. Yeah, our friend.
Uno mas.
All right, okay. Well, hey, have a good set tonight, man.
Oh, yeah,
it was
thank
great
you.
talking to you.
Oh yeah, follow us online. Spoke Comedy. Comedy with a K.
Comedy.
We pretty much just plug everything comedy wise. Yeah, it's a good place
we will do
to find
that.
everything happening comedy.
Thanks a lot.
How's it going?
All right.
Hi, Richard.
Randy.
Nice to meet you. So we've got a little comedy happening that Mark's putting on, and we good? I got a little bit of time here.
Yeah, you're totally good. We got 15 minutes before the show starts.
Okay, perfect. Plenty of time. 15 minutes. I've been getting to know every comedian for the showcase, and so it started off pretty basic with how long you've been doing comedy for.
It'll be a year and a half now.
A year and a half. I expected you to be the senior or the tenured veteran, but so a year
Because
and
of
a
the way I look?
half. Did I go straight there?
You're judging me.
I think it was the hair color, the facial hair color.
I'm 24.
24? You're a liar. Are you really?
No, I'm
40.
40.
Now you have me guessing.
I'm 46.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you guys could be serious. I once emailed a comedian because I wanted. He was hosting a podcast for a long time, and I wanted to get some advice. So I sent him an email with the subject line advice, and in the body I said, "Is there such a thing as serious advice from a comedian?" I never heard back from him, so I'm assuming the answer was probably no. But that's kind of where I was with.
Your question was too serious.
I know, wasn't it? Oh, so a year and a half. What finally got you, pushed over from wanting to do comedy to actually doing comedy?
Well, I've had like 80 jobs. I got fired from a lot of them,
That's a good recipe.
my last job was like 9 years ago. I was a truck driver at a refinery. I got hurt, and I was disabled for a long time, and I knew that disability was going to cut off, and I didn't want to go back to work. And so I started going to open mics so that I could build up the routine. By the time I ran out of checks,
Wow.
I would have a solid,
Did you time it just right? That sounds like it takes some very careful planning.
I just did a lot of hosting in Richland and the Tri-Cities here in Washington. And Max up there, he let me host a lot and got to meet a lot of good comics and work on some stuff. So,
Were you one of those hosts that was funnier than some of the comedians that were there?
well, that's a possibility of any night when you get into comedy, because you could go up and you're like, I don't know. Everybody has a bad night some nights, so it's hard to judge. Some people have bad weekends because their comedy just doesn't hit that particular audience. It doesn't mean they're not funny. It just,
So when it comes to assembling your arsenal, your jokes and everything, do you have stuff that if a certain joke that you feel like is going to hit with maybe a certain location or demographic, that if it doesn't, you kind of go down a different path with your joke telling then?
No, I'm kind of stubborn. I just stay with my set list. And if they don't,
I like it.
we already got their money. What are we worried about?
Oh, that is so 2018 right there. I love it. That is probably one of the best responses. Already got their money, so
Yeah, I mean, it's my show. I hope they like it, but I've went to movies I didn't like. I didn't get my money back.
that is a great example.
Two comedians, Spencer O'Neill and Jack Ballard, took me to see Independence Day 2. And I was very upset about
I could have
that.
told you that wasn't worth the money.
Oh, I knew it wasn't, but they wouldn't be talked out of it, and I had to watch that garbage.
Like, we got to go feel nostalgic for 2.5 hours.
I told them if I have to watch it, I'm going to riff the whole time, and you got to take it.
So are you someone that you want to take with you to a bad movie because you'll have some of the better commentary? I love it.
I grew up watching because I was neglected as a child. I grew up with a lot of TV, and I have a mind that memorizes music and movies. So I got a lot of movie lines, and I've seen so many movies that if I see inconsistency or just really bad, I'll mention it. Mystery Science Theater is one of my favorites. I love Crow T-Robot. He's my favorite.
Oh, that was some of the best comedy that I was exposed to at a younger age, was Mystery Science Theater. And I remember there was a movie, I can't remember what it was because it was all like the C and D movies, but the opening sequence was a bunch of guys spelunking down this giant, rock hole, and they're climbing down this rope. And they're going through the opening credits, and one of them says, all this movie's about is ropes and asses. And I lost it. I was like, that is like the funniest thing. That you
one of my
can
favorite
do.
is Final Sacrifice. And they have, it's a Canadian-based movie. And they have the little segments in between, when they watch and stuff. And they really start trashing Canadians. And Tom Servo doesn't want to be a part of it. And they're like, come on, just do it. And he goes way over the top. I mean, they have to cut him off. He's getting really bad. Yeah, I love Mystery Science Theater.
Did you see the reboot? It was pretty good.
The new one?
Yeah, the new Mystery
I'm not a big, because if I don't hear those voices, I can't pay attention to it. I like riff
close.
tracks.
They are close.
I like riff tracks because I go to the theater and watch those. And I watch them on YouTube and stuff. They got riff tracks on almost everything now.
Do you do your own riff tracks? Like, is it kind of a hobby from the comedy?
Well, yeah, I have a 15-year-old boy, and he loves it too. And I've collected a bunch of them. And we kind of do it like Pixels, the Adam Sandler movie.
Okay.
That is ripe for ripping. That is such a horrible movie. Who's going to believe Kevin James is the president of the United States? My God.
Well, that's my boy. That was another great Adam Sandler flick that was just so full of terrible,
He's gotten bad lately. He's done better at his more dramatic roles. I like Rain Over Me.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
Because I'm always hesitant to go and see a comedian in a serious role. Just like Jim from The Office, John Krasinski, he's in a lot of serious roles lately. I'm afraid to go see it because it's like, I don't know, like Vince Vaughn wasn't good serious.
But he played more of a straight man on The Office, so you could believe he's a serious guy. He wasn't like really like Steve Carell. I mean, he was always goofing off, I thought. Did you ever see that movie, Almost Heroes?
Oh, yeah, I loved it.
Nobody gives that movie any credit. I've seen that movie over 200 times.
See, I feel like it's a cult classic, but it shouldn't have been in the first place. Like, it should have done way better than it did.
Oh, yeah, it was a great premise. They're making so many movies over and over, and this was Lewis and Clark. Who's making a funny movie about Lewis and Clark? And then Eugene Levy. Remember, he's a French guy. They say you can't come. He says, Matthew Perry says, yeah, I got a letter. It says, you've mastered all the languages from here to the great Northwest. And Eugene Levy said, who told you this? He goes, why, you did in your letter. And he goes, my letter. Well, then it's the truth. I loved him in that.
Yeah, Eugene Levy has been a guy that has played some of the best characters ever. Jim's dad in American Pie. I don't know if there's a better dad character out there than him as far as on the big screen.
He was... He let his son do a lot of things, and he encouraged him to do things.
It was always that he did something that I don't think any parent prepares himself for, and then a pat on the back afterwards. Like, it's okay, you know? Like,
but he went a little bit farther. He told him stories of when he was a kid and how he did it, and which was kind of a little weird. But
the ladies never complain. Like, Dad, I get it. Okay, so on the topic of movies then, it sounds like you're one that got into comedy more on kind of the movies that you saw that weren't comedians' movies, but just actual like cinema movies, or was there a comedian that kind of inspired you to finally get into the comedy?
Well, I've listened to comedy like my whole life, stand-up comedy. When Def Comedy Jam came out, I couldn't get enough of that. Bernie Mac and Martin Lawrence and a bunch of comedians like that. But then my favorites though, like George Carlin and Patrice O'Neill and Robert Schimmel. I love those guys because they could work a room. Well, Carlin really wasn't a room worker, but he could rattle off stuff that made so much sense.
Carlin was a guy that when you watch him, you know that he's got kind of his own agenda going on, and he doesn't care what the audience has to say.
No.
Well, there's guys that if a joke falls flat and then another one, like, they'll start picking on the audience. And it's like, I guess if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But Carlin was fearless in that sense.
Because he did his homework.
Yeah.
He knew what he was saying was accurate and was in the, that you couldn't really dispute it without trying to stretch some things. So, no, he was great because he did, I read something like he every day at the same time, he sat at the same place, he turned the phone off, and he spent a certain amount of time writing, which I do not do that.
What's your best source of material? Is it family, friends?
I smoke a lot of weed, and then I watch YouTube, and then I think, I'm like, look at these idiots, and then I talk about them.
So it's like a Tosh .0, but different.
No, I talk about, I'm pretty sophomoric though. I talk, dicks and just goofy stuff.
What was the best joke you ever heard from a comedian? Or at least the one that's in the top
So this
five?
is internet, right?
Yeah.
So I can tell it the way it is.
Tell it.
Robert Schimmel, he said he took his daughter to the circus. And she goes, Daddy, do bears ride bicycles? And he goes, oh, yeah, sweetie. They always ride Schwinn's in the forest. And later on, she asked him, Daddy, how do they get the bear to ride the bicycle? He said, oh, they just nail his feet to the pedals and beat the shit out of him. Which is almost accurate,
The amount of therapy that some comedians' children will need, I don't envy. But at the same time,
But they know that Daddy and Mommy are just joking. With a little bit of truth.
That was one thing I asked about Mark that I feel I can ask you and get a straight answer. Is so comedians will do jokes about significant others, family, friends, and with the way social media works, it's almost like there's not a whole lot of time in between when you tell the joke to when it makes its rounds, and all of a sudden you're getting that phone call or text like, you said, what about me? But when you tell jokes about your kids, you've got maybe like a 13, 14, 15-year gap between when you say the joke and when they actually find out about it.
No, I tell the kids, right? The next day, I'm like, I told a joke about you. Everybody thinks you're hilarious.
Respect. I like that.
Now, I give that's plagiarism if I don't tell the originator of the goofiness.
Oh yeah,
where,
Mark's daughter got $25 out of him, so I respect you covering all bases.
You got to get paid.
Well, you're going to get paid tonight. We're at the Buzz, and it's a comedy showcase, and getting to know some comedians here. Everybody with a great story, unique story. But hey, have a good set tonight, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for talking with me.
All right, Mark, you want to come say a final word here?
Are you kidding? You're asking a guy that performs for a living if he wants to talk? Especially talk about myself. That's my favorite subject.
That was like a conversation I had with the photographer. He asked me how I got some of the interviews I do. I said, asking somebody to do an interview is like offering free pizza or beer. It's like, who's going to say no to that? You're asking somebody to talk about themselves for an extended period of time. It's like, if you find somebody that says no to that, they don't like themselves.
Well, I am a stand-up comic, and none of us like ourselves. But we hate ourselves in the most narcissistic way possible.
You got a great stable here. Every one of them is different in their own right, and I think you've got a great lineup coming up here tonight. So.
Well, you know, I've been doing this show for almost a year now, and I'm really proud of the fact that I get to showcase amazingly talented local people, give them a chance to work on their longer sets and stretch their legs, and get comics paid for what they do, which is what it's all about, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is something that I would love to attend more, just because I love being able to get out, have pizza, enjoy a laugh and a beer or two. You know, if the comedians make me laugh, then that's a bonus.
Well, some of us just are so funny looking. You don't have a lot of choice. I want to first off, before we finish, I want to congratulate you on your recent award.
Thank you.
I'm not saying I played a huge part, but I know I voted at least once.
And a share goes a long way, you know.
And also for the opportunity to come on here, you know, I'm trying to build Mark Morris Comedy as a brand that's respectable and has integrity for putting on solid shows in the area. And guys like you giving us a voice for that is a wonderful thing. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. And jokes aside, I mean, it's your consistency and your follow through that is going to make your brand great. And I think that's what you've done here. And I think the lineup that you've got tonight is a small sample of probably what you've got going on the rest of the area. So it is Mark Morris Comedy. You can check him out on Facebook at Mark Morris Comedy. And he's got an email, markmorriscomedy@yahoo.com. And I'll be sharing his stuff. And, of course, you can catch him on the Facebooks and the interwebs.
You can see me at Instagram at Mark Morris Comedy, Twitter at MRK Morris Comedy, because one character longer would have crashed their system. And I just want to say, if you don't mind, this show happens every third Monday at the Buzz. I got a great lineup in March, but in April, we have an all-headliner showcase. No winner that month except the audience, because every guy on that show is a legitimate headliner that has been paid good money by the Spokane Comedy Club to headline their club. And they're coming here for a no-cover show, so the winner is the audience. So April, the third Monday in April, which I believe is the day after tax day. So why not, after crying, come out and laugh your butt off? And check out all our other shows around the area. I got some great people coming out through the end of the year.
Shed a tear, have a laugh. He is Mark Morris. Spoke Comedy is the group. Now, this is the area in the Pacific Northwest, but of course there are comedy clubs and groups all over the country, and Mark travels the country, so I'm sure he can connect you in your area with the right group and make sure that you can get out there and appreciate some great comedy. So, Mark, have a great show. I know you won't be performing, but you're overseeing these, like, you know.
Oh, no, I'm doing 10 minutes up front.
You're doing 10 minutes up front?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Why would you have your own show and not say something? I don't know. I told you the whole narcissistic part, right?
That you did. All right, well, this has been fun. I look forward to doing it again. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Richard.
All right, go kill it up there. All right, folks, that's going to do it from The Buzz. So until next time, tune in tomorrow night for an all-new episode of The Fan Show, regularly scheduled Fan Show time. And until next time, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.